Hello everyone, my name is Rory Joscelyne. I am the writer, creator, director of Human Cargo, a futuristic thriller film, which would probably be termed broadly as a cyberpunk, and I run Cyberpunk Studios. So all of those things combined, you could probably term it as a cyberpunk. A little bit different than the usual. Human Cargo is not a cheese fest, which tends to be what occurs in cyberpunks. They get a little bit silly, a bit ridiculous. But when they're at their strongest, they tend to point out really strong socio-political statements that, you know, they're phenomenal. It's a phenomenal genre. And so what I'm going to do is to introduce you to myself. So hi, and also what I'm planning on doing. Human Cargo's feature film, to put it pretty quickly, we're barreling towards getting funds together to get towards production. We're looking at going into production next year. Part of this is going to be a Kickstarter campaign, where we're going to be asking for donations, but we're going to give you stuff in return. I'm going to do a proper video for that hopefully should be better image quality and everything than this. I'm doing this off of an iPad and quite a cheap, what's it called, clip mic, but it's over there because when I clipped it to me it was too close, which is kind of the opposite of what you'd expect from a clip mic, but I had to put it over there. Colourful lighting because it's cyberpunk, isn't that fancier? And stupid glasses because I'm an idiot. So, just to give you an idea, I can be serious, but these are not. Yes! I look like a cyberpunk variant of Dr. Robotnik before he loses his hair, like if I do that. I'll get that, Sonic. Anyway, the older ones of you probably won't get that. Who cares? I'll never replace Jim Carrey, we know that much. So, what I'm gonna do quickly for this video, just to give you a rundown of who I am, what background I've got into the genre, things like that. There's a lot of cyberpunk I haven't yet seen. I'm making my way through it, and I do a radio show with Ray Radio called Inside The Cyberpunk Studios. Now that's been off air since February because of the crisis, but when that's over and we can go back into the recording booth, I'm going to sort of be regimenting it a little bit more. By the way, this music is The Midnight. Amazing gross synthwave band, really worth your time. Anyway, when I get back in there, it's going to be regimented a little bit more. I'm going to be looking at cyberpunk films. I'm going to basically try and pick like a film a week to make sure that I watch over it, analyse it, go into, you know, what's good and bad about it, and that, you know, and what format. I'll try and watch it in the best possible format I can. Be that, you know, in some cases some of those end up being VHS, and I've just got VHS stuff together, so that's going to be fine. Some of it's going to be DVD, some of it's going to be Blu-ray. 4K Blu-ray might be a bit difficult because I don't have a 4K Blu-ray player yet, but I have a couple of friends that have them, so I may have to annoy them in order to go and see that it's those films at their very best. But there's not a huge amount of cyberpunk that's in 4K yet, mostly Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. I've seen both of those films, but I only own the first one on normal Blu-ray at the moment, so there's scope for me to improve with the stuff I've got. But I'm going to go through some of the stuff that I have here, give you an idea as to what I'm looking into with when it comes to futuristic thrillers, where a lot of that influence has come from. I'll give you like a snippet of what I might think of a film if I've seen it yet. Some of these Blu-rays and some of these films I've not yet seen, so I'm still sort of going through the motions. But yeah, if you're a big fan of futuristic thrillers, cyberpunks, that sort of thing, you're probably going, well, who are you, young man with colourful hair, to tell me what I should watch for a cyberpunk? So I'm going to give you an idea that I do kind of know what I'm talking about, and I'll know more by the time we get to filming. So the first film is The Sixth Day. Not always considered a cyberpunk, but it is. It's a good film. It's not the best film. It gets close to a meaning and then just sort of uses it for comic effect rather than anything, but I like that film. Yes, Terry Crews was in it. I forgot Terry Crews was in this film. But yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger going around beating himself up for sleeping with his own wife. So that's it today in a nutshell. We've got altered states. Now, as you can see, this is in the cellophane. I haven't seen this yet. This is William Hurt from 1980. From the year 1980, not from the film 1980. But anyway, William Hurt's the lead in this, and it's to do with a research scientist believing in other forms of consciousness and trying to get to this other reality using sensory deprivation. So I'm intrigued as to see what goes on with that. There is Automata. This is a regular Blu-ray, even though it's a black case, which was snazzy at the time, but now obviously 4K Blu-ray uses the black case. Automata is a sort of... It is a cyberpunk, but it's also kind of a Mad Max-esque sort of dystopian desert thriller as well for the half of it. It sort of slides from one to the other. Antonio Banderas is the lead in it. It's a very good film, actually. I really like this film. I actually preferred this to another film that I'll get to in a minute called Ex Machina. They both deal with the same thing. Ex Machina is sort of more widely regarded. This was more missed. But I actually preferred the robotics of this than I did to the ones in Ex Machina. But I'll get to that when I get to there. But I found it interesting. Very, very, very much worth your while. Blade Runner, obviously, classic. Fantastic film. It looks amazing on Blu-ray. I can't imagine how much better it will look on 4K Blu-ray. I'll get round to that eventually. But this is what set the standard. This is what set cyberpunk as a genre pretty much, at least in terms of film. Obviously, it had been a thing in novels for quite some time, including Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, that influenced this, but definitely phenomenal film. Dark City I've not watched yet. This Blu-ray doesn't work, which is annoying. It's a Region A Blu-ray, which would normally not be a problem because I'm in the UK, so Region B Blu-rays are what my PlayStation 4 and Xbox One play. But when it comes to US discs, I basically rip them from the disc and play them via my PC as a file. But this just doesn't work. Doesn't read, so I've got a faulty disc there. So what I might do for that one is just stream it off of Amazon Prime, because I don't want to pay for another Blu-ray for that. It's a shame because I've heard it's amazing and I'm missing out. It's got obviously Richard O'Brien, the bald megalo genius. Demolition Man. I actually love this film. It's a bit cheese, but actually the closer we get, like the further into the future we get, the more relevant it becomes in terms of well, I suppose you could call, like, if this was made now it would be really contentious because of the sort of massive strain between left versus right in politics right now. This might be considered a more right-wingerish film, but it's not really. Obviously for the time it was made it wasn't anything to do with that. It was just a really weird look at damping down, which was, fascinating. A very interesting film nonetheless. This one, I love this film because I am a big video game nerd. It is a cyberpunk, but I think there's going to be a lot of people that are into futuristic thrillers per se that are going to groan at this. It is Detective Pikachu. It's in my list because it is a cyberpunk, the near future, and I love the filming of this. Is phenomenal. Regardless of whether or not you care about Pokemon, you care about any of this stuff. It's a fun film. Ryan Reynolds is always good, and the scene with the Mr. Mime is incredibly funny. The rest of it's general standard child fare, but the Mr. Mime scene, you've got to watch it, even if you're not a fan of anything video game related. It's just so funny and just really clever. But yeah, the filming of this was really clever as well because it was done on cinema film. They purposely filmed it on film rather than a digital negative, even though that made the CGI harder to work on, because they wanted to give it a more authentic look to things like Blade Runner. So I thought that was cool. That's always cool. Double Dragon, another video game-based movie from the 90s. It's available on Blu-ray here from Germany, surround sound soundtrack, which almost doesn't surround you at all, but it's better than stereo, I suppose. It's a phenomenal transfer. If you like this film, get the German Blu-ray, just without question. It's the image quality is absolutely fantastic. The film itself, no. awful film. Dredd with Carl Urban, the Urbanista. This is a phenomenal film. I haven't got this one out of the wrapping, but I did see this in the cinema and seeing it in the 3D as well. This film was one of the few films, like Avatar, that really used 3D to a good effect. Like all the visuals in this are exceptional. Definitely, I'm really sad they never made a sequel to that, even though Carl Urban and the director wanted to. I have no idea why they didn't get around to making it, because the first one made money. It's one of those things where you think Hollywood have maybe cutting their nose off to spite their face? I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of it. Equilibrium is a Christian Bale film before he was Batman. It came out at an unfortunate time. It came out around the same time as The Matrix, and everyone was like, oh, it's just The Matrix again. So nobody watched it. Which is a shame, because it's not The Matrix again. The reason everyone thinks it's The Matrix again is, if you look on the back here, the way he's dressed, and the fact that The Matrix created bullet time effects, and this has what they call gun kata, which is like martial arts with guns. So people are like, oh, he's just The Matrix. The story's very different. Christian Bale is a man who is trying to who's trying to basically arrest people who illegally have emotions, and he finds art, which is like almost like Hitler did. That his higher ups are eliminating art. He finds this art, and it just triggers this thing in him. It's amazing. Ex Machina, I told you about this. I'm going to try and get through the rest a little bit more quickly. Ex Machina, I liked. It's a very clever film, but I didn't get the android's motivation at the end of killing them. I understand that she, as a robot, she wouldn't have any emotion to saving them. I'm giving it away, aren't I? Anyway, I understood that she wouldn't, but to go out of her way to harm is very un-robot-like to a certain degree. Without motivation, we don't get that motivation. At least, we're meant to believe that, it's kind of a revenge for abuses, but androids wouldn't think like that either. So it spent its whole time going, this is how robots would really do it. Pushing that there's not a lot of fiction in this. This is, very hard line to reality. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'll watch it again and I'll see something different. Because we now have the robotic face woman who's saying about putting people in human zoos, so perhaps it's more accurate than I gave it credit for in my first run. This classifies, I'm not a fan of this film, Final Fantasy VII. The game was also a cyberpunk fantasy game. This film is naff. It's amazing looking, absolutely incredible looking, but you can't go into that film without knowing the game, and I hadn't played the game before I watched it. So it's kind of it goes nowhere, does nothing, and also the story has a lot of plot hole. There's one massive plot hole in the film, which I'll get to when I review it. Just ruined it for me. The game is, I'm classifying this as a futuristic thriller, even though it's not meant to be set in the future. But the tech that the CRS company is much more futuristic than it is current. Certainly at the time that this film was made. I've got the Criterion version here. It's the one I recommend you get, even though it's an American version. You must get this version, not the version from, because I had the Blu-ray from MGM, I think, who released it initially, and it's awful. The image quality is terrible. The image quality on this, being a Criterion release, is fantastic. The game is also a phenomenal film, definitely worth watching. This isn't out yet. Games Master on Blu-ray. So I'm currently restoring Games Master in 4K, and this is a prototype case for that. So anyone who likes Games Master on TV, look at it shiny. Gattaca. Now I have seen this, even though this version's in cellophane. I have seen this film before, but it was a while ago. I did like it, so I am looking forward to seeing this again. To do with genetic engineering and sort of a class divide between the superior race of humans with genetic engineering and the inferior race that are basically you and me today. Ghost in the Shell, I haven't seen this one yet. I've seen the original Japanese anime, but I haven't seen this like Hollywood remake. It's got Takeshi Kitano in it though. I love Takeshi Kitano. I love all of his films, stuff like that. I've watched a lot of his films. I've got Kikajiro and Hana B to watch actually on Blu-ray, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. And just Takeshi Kitano being in a film doesn't necessarily make it good, because he was also in Johnny Mnemonic, which was a good film but not a great film. And I've heard some people have a go about this because obviously Scarlett Johansson's not Japanese and the character's supposed to be. But I'll see if that's in any way important to the narrative in terms of that version, because obviously they could have rewritten it. So Hackers, I do like Hackers. Hackers is cheese. You're not going to watch Hackers and have a spiritual, life-changing experience, but it is a damn lot of fun. One of the earlier films with Angelina Jolie in it. And the science fiction-y sort of hacking world, like the way that they do the hacking visually, is very nice. It's not very accurate, but it's very nice looking. And this release is actually very good, which is 88 films. It's very good. How did this get in here? That's the short film. There will be a release for the feature as well, which we'll come to with the Kickstarter campaign. But for now, this is available. It is a full. It is real. And my ego put that with the rest. So, Judge Dredd, I've literally just watched this again. I got this delivered today, so I gave it a watch. I love this film. It's not as good as Dredd. It's obviously the same universe, but Dredd was a reboot. This is very different to the comics, apparently. I've never read the comics, but they, number one, this shouldn't be happening where he's got his face exposed. But it is a damn good film, and actually, the Blu-ray looks really good. Really good. Like, the special effects in that pretty much all hold up as well. There's a couple that don't. There's a car chase sequence where he and Rob Schneider are on a motorbike. That doesn't hold up, but the initial shots where you get like the panning shots of Mega City, they look really good. And the fact that the robot in this is a genuine robot, they built it, and so that looks great as well. There's no special effects work there in terms of like slap-on CGI. So it's a film recommended to watch. Again, not a life-changing experience, but a good film. This, however, you should never watch. The King of Fighters. It's based on a video game. The V game is not a cyberpunk, so obviously when they made the movie, they went, you know what worked for Super Mario Brothers the movie was making it a cyberpunk. It's awful. Cinematography is pretty good in some of it. This character here, I don't know if you see him, the actor is Sean Farris, I think his name is. Yeah, Sean Farris. Yeah, very Irish heritage kind of actor in the way he looks as well. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a younger Tom Cruise in terms of his looks. When he's a child in this film, he's literally fully Chinese, and then he grows up into Tom Cruise lookalike. Bit of a plot hole. Bad casting. But I mean, to be fair, the bad casting wasn't the worst thing in that film. The story's nice. Shouldn't have to introduce this at all. Matrix is great. Matrix is what it is. The first Matrix was the best out of the trilogy by a clear mile. I enjoyed the second one as an action film. The third one lost itself in its own farts. But overall, great trilogy. The original Metropolis. Now, this could realistically kind of be considered the first cyberpunk. It's from 1927. 1927. German film. Not a huge amount of representation across the board in this, but from 1927 Germany, you probably should expect that. It's unfortunately, this is the most complete version of it. There's still some footage missing because it was chopped to high heaven, and in those days they chopped the original film negative and not a copy when they wanted to make like a TV version. It's ridiculous. A lot of the Marx Brothers films had a similar problem with this actually. I love the Marx Brothers. So yeah, but kind of the original, say, proto-cyberpunk is a cyberpunk. It's the progenitor to things like Blade Runner. You know, massive mega city, engineering robots, there's a robot woman in it. It's like, it's a cyberpunk. It's a cyberpunk. And then Metropolis. There's probably some of you going, eh? So Osamu Tezuka remade Metropolis as an anime with Katsuhiro Otomo being the writer and director and sort of lead animator for Akira. The animation in this is very good, and actually it's different enough to stand on its own as a different film to the 1927 Metropolis. So definitely worth your time if you're into, even if you're not particularly into anime, you'd still get something out of it, but obviously if you're into anime, you're going to get a lot more out of it. There is a caveat. I'm not a big fan of anime in and of myself, so I can understand there might be some people that look at it and go, what is it, anime? Nah, out. It's still worth a watch. There's quite a big difference. For example, there's a son character to the guy running the megacity, who is trying to protect his father from bringing this woman to life, but he's a bit of a narcissist. So yeah, and there's like a romance between her and this younger detective's detective nephew. Yeah, it's a little bit more complicated than the original Metropolis, but the music's good. I love the music in it. Next up, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. Now, this is technically a cyberpunk, because even though it's more of a series of music videos, there's fantastical elements to it, and he turns into a car. I actually enjoy certain parts of the film. The smooth criminal part of that film, beyond exception. And the cyberpunky cinematic lighting is phenomenal. Like, there's so much atmosphere in those scenes, but you can pretty much omit the first 15 minutes of the film because it's just Michael Jackson going, "Here's a music video of me. Here's a music video of me." Weird. I haven't seen this yet, but I really want to. I'd never heard of this until I came across it on some random search. Replicas, Keanu Reeves, Rihanna Cubes. Some humans, he develops a robot that ends up imitating him, is what I'm getting at from the blurb on the back, and then he's in danger for some reason, so I'm looking forward to seeing that, because it's Rihanna Cubes, and everyone likes Rihanna Cubes. Robocop, I've seen the remake as well. I haven't seen the sequels, but yeah, obviously a classic of cyberpunk, the Jesus story, but with a man in metal, and if you didn't know that, look it up, it's true. It's meant to be a Jesus allegory. Weird. But yeah, very good film. Very violent. They even went back and reshot a scene just to shoot a character again. I can't remember why now. They re-rigged this guy up to get shot twice, like several months apart, for a shot in the film. RPG starring Rutger Hauer. Rutger Hauer, of course, from Blade Runner fame. This is this is an odd film. It's has very much the feel of an independent feature. Rutger Hauer is only in the future segments, and those are the lesser of the segments. So this guy is who you follow, really, but they are meant to be the same character. So essentially, in this future, Rutger Hauer drives to this building, which you see this thing here. There's a huge bunch of old people, and they all want to extend their lives and start from youth again, like from their 20s. Bring in this guy. So they're connected to this computer system, they go into the game, they look like these younger versions of themselves, or what they would like to look like, and from that point on, you almost exclusively stick with these guys, and they're doing Battle Royale. Anyone who's seen the Japanese film Battle Royale, that's what this is. It's Battle Royale, but in a cyberpunky sort of sci-fi other universe. One of the interesting things, the future segments with Rutger Hauer are filmed on cinema film, so they have that sort of really cool film grain. The bits inside with these guys, because it's a digital world, are filmed on a digital film negative using red cameras, so you get a really different look between the two types of sets, so that's really interesting. It's a very interesting film. I think it failed to live up to what it could have done, but it is a very interesting film, definitely worth a watch. Seconds. So now we're getting into more of that sort of proto-cyberpunk stuff. That's not really, but it kind of is. I'm going to take these off because they're right in my head. So with Seconds, this was the third in a trilogy of films by John Frankenheimer. The first one in the run is kind of the most famous. It's the one I don't have. So, and I can't remember the name of it for life nor money. This was the third. This was the final one. It was the least sort of picked up, sadly, but it's really interesting. Rock Hudson is the lead in it, and essentially he starts off as not Rock Hudson. He starts off as this sort of overweight, upper middle class guy, sort of in his 50s, maybe like 50s, getting towards his 60s, maybe. Not old, but old enough to sort of have seen it all, done it all. And he feels let down by life, where, it's just like we were told we had to do the work, we had to go into the jobs, we had to do all this stuff to get the yacht and get the wife and get this and achieve all these little goals. And when he finally gets there and has it all, he has got no other goal to aim for. He doesn't have to relax and enjoy himself, and he feels like he's wasted his life. So he wants to try again, the second part of it. He wants a second try at life. So he gets contacted and goes into sort of this black market, futuristic black market, where he goes through cosmetic surgery. Gets completely reconfigured, his face changed, like mass surgery, to become Rock Hudson. Now, anyone who is a bit too young, about my age or a bit young, certainly younger, won't know who the hell Rock Hudson is. Rock Hudson in the 70s, then during the era of this film, was a massive heartthrob, really good-looking guy, striking looking. He was kind of mocked as an actor, which is a shame because he's very good in this. I don't think it's probably, some people have said it may be his best performance, but I'll be honest, it's the only film I've seen him in. But he was very good in this. This film is freaky. I mean, this part of the end, this looks really horrific. It is. It haunts you once you've finished it. The middle section of this film is actually what's weakest. The whole opening is phenomenal. The whole ending is phenomenal. I think it's just a little weak in the middle. I would love to remake this film and basically focus in that middle ground, so that because the beginning and the end is phenomenal. Some people might call that sacrilege, but writers and directors have got to have things that fascinate them. This is a fantastic film, and nobody knows it. It's so good. Anyway, next film is the second one of that trilogy, and it's 7 Days in May. Now, anyone who's seen this might possibly be looking at me going, "It's not a cyberpunk, is it? It's not futuristic." It is. I'll give you a brief rundown of what the story's about, and then I'll explain the cyberpunk aspect to it. So basically, it's star-studded. Kirk Douglas is kind of the lead for most of it, but you've got Burt Lancaster as sort of the lead villain, and they're both military people. Burt Lancaster is a general in the army, and Kirk Douglas is a sergeant. I think it's a sergeant. And Kirk Douglas gets wind that Burt Lancaster is trying to do a takeover of the American government. But it's so realistically done that it's not like the way that he does the takeover is kind of subtle for the most part, and then at the end, bam, it's there in your face. In the Frederick March, who plays the president, who Burt Lancaster is basically trying to impeach, get rid of, and replace with a military government. Does a phenomenal job in certainly with the there's like a monologue he gives to Burt Lancaster towards the end, like when he finds out what's going on. Ava Gardner's very good in it as well, even though her part is actually smaller than the cover might let on. So the reason this is kind of more of a cyberpunk is because, give me a drink. The reason this is more of a cyberpunk is because at the time a lot of the technology in this film was sci-fi, but it was so subtly done nobody noticed. So there's video calling in this, and this film was made in 1964. This is before Star Trek. So prior to Star Trek, this had video calling. Prior to Star Trek even existing. So this had video calling in it. It had a massive display, switch around display, rear projection. They created rear projection for one of the scenes, like for one of the recurring scenes in this film. And this was all stuff when people watch it went, oh, it's possible the government could have that. Because it was subtle. It wasn't like, they've got laser cannons. It was, which is what people expected from sci-fi in 1964. If you're going to have a sci-fi, then your sci-fi is obviously going to be laser cannons and quick bug Rogers. And this wasn't that at all. It was just a subtle hint of futuristic technology in an otherwise dramatic film. Really good film. Really good film. Sleep Dealer, haven't seen this yet. It's a Mexican cyberpunk. So, in Spanish. Mexican. Stupid of me. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what that's like. Apparently, basically, there's something to do with sleep. Obviously, tendrils. Always dreamed of leaving his tiny village and heading to the border, but when the bizarre tragedy strikes, he's forced to go on the run. The near future of Sleep Dealer is a world filled with killer drones, high-tech factories, memory cellars, and a wild war against aqua-terrorists. So, it sounds like a very odd idea, but I'm into it. It's got shades of another film that will come in a little bit called Strange Days, actually. At least from the description. Source Code, it is a cyberpunk because he's being wired in to repeat time to solve a crime. Very good film, actually, from the director of Moon, and these were his first two sort of feature films. I love both of them. Moon sits with you a lot longer than Source Code does. I think the sort of, it's got a Hollywood ending, and I think that might have been what stopped it from staying with you and haunting with you as much as Moon. But other than that, I've got no complaints. The ending wasn't bad, it was just a bit too Hollywood. Yeah, I like it. Really good film. Well worth your time. Silent Green I haven't watched yet. Now, I know this is a classic, and don't ruin it for me. I know it's kind of a classic that everyone should know the answer to by now, and I kind of think I do, but I really want to be spoiled on it. And this is the year 2022, so it's 2 years away from... they'll do anything to get what they need, and they need Soylent Green. It's very possible. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. Strange Days, film I mentioned. This is phenomenal, and a really missed film. And there are issues with this film. It's not a perfect film, but it's such a good film. This has a lot of, weirdly enough, the aesthetic I was going for with Human Cargo, I worked out with my cinematographer sort of the designs and the way I wanted it to look, and then I watched Strange Days about 2 months after, and when I watched it I was like, that's kind of the sort of look I'm going for. It's like, it already exists, but that's good, it means I'm on the same thought wave as the people who made this. Catherine Bigelow was the director. It was produced and written by James Cameron, of Terminator fame, but it was directed by Catherine Bigelow, who at the time was big and well known, but became a lot more well known later for The Hurt Locker, when she became the first director to win Best Director, first female director to win Best Director at, I think, the Oscars. It's a really good film. It's not for kids. Don't watch it with anyone who's averse to strong themes, but it does a really good job. I'll come to that. I love this film, but for the completely opposite reason. Yeah, Street Fighter the movie. Cheesy as hell, and it is a cyberpunk because it includes bodily transformations. Dalsim is making Blanca out of the big comic gel stuff. It has future technology with M. Bison lifting himself from the ground with electrodimorphism. Raul Julia makes this film. Raul Julia is incredible. I've been banging on about this film for 15 years at least, saying that it's a massive hidden gem, and now it seems that a lot of people online are catching up now with that and saying the same. Raul Julia, I love him in this film. He, chewing all the scenery, but that's exactly what it called for. If you want something stupid, cheesy and fun, that's what you go for. If you want something serious, intelligent and thought-provoking, no. But if you want stupid, cheesy and fun, love it. But with one caveat. unlike most films, you have to watch this and root for the villains. Because the villains are so much better than the heroes are naff in this film. The villains are hilarious. So, root villains, go. Go villains! Street Fighter 2, the animated movie. Named Street Fighter 2 because of the first film, but absolutely nothing to do with the first film. This is an anime, follows the story of the games a little bit more closely, though not 100%, but a little bit more closely. The American, or the English language version I prefer to the Japanese, which is rare. But I think it's because the soundtrack's better. It's got a lot of like 90s rock and metal, rock and metal, which is like just makes it a really great film. The action's really well done for an anime as well. It's mindless, it's brainless, it's stupid, but if you're looking for an anime like a fighting anime that's a bit of cheesy fun, you can't go wrong. Unlike the Street Fighter that was not a cyberpunk, that was made much later with a woman who was Lois Lane, and that was all. Don't get me that. Super Mario Brothers, the movie. I'm helping. They've hired more people now, so my part of that is sort of sliding away. But I've been on board with helping restore much of this for quite some time. But yeah, this is the British Blu-ray. Very good transfer. Great film. Watch everyone. Now I've got to watch everyone go, and you want to be a director? But I enjoy it. I enjoy it as cheese. I enjoy it as well. Realistically, to best enjoy this, you kind of have to be into video gaming. Because, like, and certainly the series, and look for all the bits, because there's a huge amount of pedigree and quality in the sort of the background details of this film. More so than, maybe the main story. But, good actors, great, like the sets. David Snyder, who did Blade Runner, did this. Alan Silvestri, who did the soundtrack for Back to the Future, did this. It's the people that did Max Headroom were the directors of this. There's a huge story behind it. The Blu-ray actually has something that makes it kind of more valuable. It has a documentary, behind-the-scenes documentary, the making of. And that making, like, not the original, but one made at the time, well, currently at the time that the Blu-ray was made. And everyone's really sort of straight-laced about it's a real deep insight into how Hollywood can screw something up, and why. And actually, if you're a filmmaker, the Blu-ray of this is important, I think, for you outside of the film itself. You may enjoy the film, you may hate the film, but the making of for this film is a big eye-opening look at the worst of filmmaking lore. So really good, really good purchase. Not so much a good film, but I enjoy it. Surrogates with Bruce Willis. This film is good. It's not phenomenal. I don't know. I'd have to watch it again to remember why, but I remember that this didn't quite last with me as much as I wanted it to. Though I do remember seeing it at the cinema and being really annoyed at the cinema, and I didn't ask for my money back because I'm an idiot and I should have done. But it was mono or stereo sound. And I was like, well, I've paid 13 quid for a ticket. I've got surround sound at home. And I'm coming to a cinema and it's just like the two fronts. And it wasn't like it was stereo, but it was all the way. It was literally they only had like two speakers working. Like, turn the others on. So, that bad taste in my mouth, which is a bit unfair to the film. So I do need to go over that again just to, refresh myself as to what it's about. Now, this film I like. It's another video game film called Tekken. It's not a good adaptation of the game, and it's not a great film in and of itself. It's enjoyable, though it was more enjoyable when I was a teen. There's some things in this, like the main female protagonist, that actually some of her outfit, you end up like when you're a horny teen, you're like, oh, that's so hot, and then when you see it as an adult, you're like, put your ass crack away, love. But, that's what happened. That's hormones for you. But the film itself is still pretty good. The action I actually thought was really well done. People slate the action, but I actually thought it was better in this than a lot of other films They had actual MMA fighters and stuff like that involved in actually doing the martial arts of the film. Plot holes galore, but it's very stylistic. I'll give it that. It's stylistic. Now this is going to be a surprise. The Terminator is a great film. I don't need to give this an introduction, really. Phenomenal film. The first one more of a cyber horror than it is a sort of a cyberpunk, but you do get a vision of that future. Phenomenal film. I've got it twice because the American box is amazing and it was only available there for a while, and then I've got this version, which is the UK version, where the disc is much better, but the box art is, well, the box art's not too bad, but it's not quite, doesn't have the changing face. That's amazing on that box. I might just move the disc over into the new box. I'm not a big fan of having the Deadpool on the cover, but, you know, the Deadpool? I'm having Deadpool on the cover, but it does have a funny tidbit at the back. I wish I was in this film, but I'm not. Terminator 2, of course. Just as good. Some people might argue better. I kind of do prefer Terminator 2, but it is a longer film when you watch the full version, and realistically, for its best, you need to be watching the longer version. For a film that's relatively shorter, the first Terminator's a bit better, because pretty much all of its story was included within the standard runtime. Terminator 2, you lose bits if you watch it in sort of the standard, and still an hour and 45-minute version. If you want the longer versions, then you're in for a longer haul. Bums on seats, make sure you got your drinks and food ready. But yeah, great film. Total Recall. You've just been erased, I was going to say. That was a razor. Stupid. Get Your Ass to Mars. This also has one of them cool, sort of moving covers. That looks really cool on the camera. It's cool on the camera than it does to my face. But yeah, Total Recall. This is the best version of it because this was the one where it was director approved. I did have the original of this, got rid of it at some point when I got this because why would I keep an inferior version? Image quality is great on this. Total Recall is a phenomenal and a classic. The remake, not so much. I don't have the remake in this Blu-ray collection at the moment, but really not worth your time. Hated it. But I'll come to that another time. And only a couple left. 12 Monkeys, the legendary film by Terry Gilliam, previously of Monty Python fame, but since, that's putting his career at a very minor point. Monty Python was phenomenal, but he's moved on from there, done so many great films, and this is one of them. Bruce Willis, Brad Pitt, just a really dystopian, horrible meh. Doesn't follow the aesthetic of things like Blade Runner. So a lot of people, when they think of Cyberpunk, they think of the Blade Runner aesthetic. This really doesn't have it, which for me is a bit of a shame, because I do like Cyberpunk to have that sort of gritty feel, but this has a gritty feel, but have that sort of theme. But that's just me being me, because I like lights and colours. This isn't very colourful as a film, but the story's really good. Yeah, really worth your time. And last but not least, in this Blu-ray collection, obviously I've seen more than these, and I've seen a lot of the ones that aren't in here as well. But Westworld. Again, kind of a proto-cyberpunk, but it's a cyberpunk. Essentially, two guys go on a trip to a modern theme park, kind of a Disneyland theme park, but in this theme park there's three different worlds, where you have Westworld, or Western World as it's called in the film, Western World, Medieval World, and Roman World. And as you can see here with Yul Brynner's face, essentially it's populated with androids and that you can kill. You can do anything you want with. You can have sex with so in the Western World you can have sex with the wenches. You can shoot Yul Brynner, who is like the black dressed, the cowboy in black, I think they call him. And he'll get in a gunfight with you, and you'll always win, and the guns and everything you have are designed to not shoot at a heat source. So you can't kill another person, but you can kill the androids because they don't run hot. That runs a little bit contrary nowadays to modern computing. If you think heating is the biggest issue with most computers, sit there looking at them going, always dying on you. My computer's always like, nah! Fans all over the place. It's off at the moment because just you wouldn't hear me otherwise. It's got 7 fans to keep it cool. Pardon me. So an application, I don't think Westworld would work on that basis, but Yul Brynner's character in this, the way he portrays it, is legendary. If you ever want to see... Well, Arnold Schwarzenegger specifically stated that he based his movements for the Terminator on Yul Brynner in this film. You can see it, you can understand why. When you look at Yul Brynner in this, you kind of think of a lot, whenever people portray androids, you look at the dead eyes, the sort of the turning stares, the sort of almost like they're processing every move to see what's most accurate to do next while they're doing it. So there's like an ongoing processing on the processor is constantly shuffling out tasks as they're performing them, and that all started with Yul Brynner, and so definitely worth your time. It's a little slow for the first 10-15 minutes. The infomercial section at the beginning, I think, is overlong. But it is a good laugh. Majel Barrett's in it. Majel Barrett, the wife of Gene Roddenberry, who was Nurse Chapel and Lwaxana Troy, and the voice of almost every computer in Star Trek, is also in it as the woman who runs the saloon. So, good fun. I'm out of Blu-rays, and it's been nearly an hour. That's strange. It's only meant to be like a 5-10 minute long film. I will try and get things to improve a little bit, and I will catch you guys in a bit. But please keep an eye on the Cyberpunk Studios YouTube channel. Keep an eye on @CargoHuman. Someone had nicked Human Cargo, annoyingly enough. @CargoHuman on Twitter, and also at facebook.com/cyberpunkfilm. We also have an Instagram, I believe, at instagram.com/cyberpunkfilm, or cyberpunk. Yeah, I think it's cyberpunkfilm. I don't use Instagram because you can't do it on PC. I'm an old man. That's what I do. I use PCs. On your phone, no. On PC, that's where I have all my save data. Anyway, that's me showing my age. I'm not quite as young as I might look. Tell me in the comments if you think I'm young, or if you think I'm old. I've got greys showing, look. Starting to see them. God, when I get past 21, I'm going to look really old. Catch you later! Thank you very much for tuning in. I will catch you guys soon. And please keep an eye on the channels for when we get the Kickstarter up. We promise, I'm making sure that every single tier has something in it for you, and that you get the most bang for your buck. In fact, there's going to be at least half the tiers with 0 risk donations, so which includes the Human Cargo Blu-ray for the short. So there's tiers that will include getting you Blu-rays that you'll get instantly. Well, say instantly. Obviously, as soon as the campaign ends, we'll send those out. So there are several tiers, at least near enough half the tiers, where there's no risk, because you'll get your rewards, and you'll also get your name in the credits in the feature. So there's a lot of those. Plus, there's also tiers, obviously, where if you want the Blu-ray of the feature, then there's a little bit more money for that. But that's where you incur the risk, because we've got to then produce the film. But I'm producing the film, so. Have a good day, and we'll catch you guys later.